Hello, Colette, and welcome to the
Hi.
Make Life Rich Movement podcast. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really
Good.
excited to talk to you. And truth be told, when your publicist reached out, I was literally that day searching lymphatics on just Instagram, going onto Google, and like going through my library and trying to see what books I could take out. And there are a number of practices that, are becoming a bit more frequent and understood out there, I think, in social media and in pop culture.
Yeah.
But when I came across the email mentioning your business and everything that you're doing, I was just like, whoa, okay. She is at the forefront of something really amazing here, and I cannot wait to learn all about it. So,
Oh, that's so
Colette
sweet of
is,
you.
no, no, it's so sweet of you to have brought this here, okay? So, thank you very much.
I mean, it is a hot topic, so I'm not surprised you were Googling it.
Oh gosh, it really, I think, guys, today we're discussing the lymphatic system, okay? And more importantly, we are discussing Colette's business, which is the Well Studio. She is located in Pasadena, California, which is in the LA area, and it's just a beautiful wellness studio that focuses on whole body wellness via lymphatic drainage and some body sculpting treatments and a number of other things. But I really absolutely just love your approach to everything that you're doing, and I cannot wait to get into it. So
Oh,
I
thank
would
you. I'm
love
excited to
to.
talk about it with you.
Yay! It's so cool too because you are literally for the people that I know that care about lymphatics, and I'm on the East Coast, so I feel like there's the Great Country Divide.
Yeah.
The middle, those poor guys, they have to hold on until the East Coast is caught on
Yeah.
to things and then it trickles over. And I feel like for the brave on the West Coast, they get to try the coolest, newest things. And it makes so much sense that you would have your studio in Pasadena. So tell us just a little bit about where you're from, how you got to California, if you were born there, or if you're a transplant, and what led you to, I guess, learning more about the lymphatic system.
Well, I am actually from Pasadena,
Oh,
so yeah,
beautiful.
I'm just
So
here.
lovely. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean it is gorgeous, and LA is very similar to I guess kind of like, well, I mean, people are going to hate me for saying this, but what I mean by saying it's similar to New York is that we have the neighborhoods, and so people kind of like stick with their neighborhoods in a way. And so I feel like for me now, I love it here so much. It's a little more suburban, and I really am excited to. I never thought I would have a business where I grew up, but here we are, and it's fun. But I feel like for me, I was honestly, I was really sick since I was a kid. It turns out that I have Lyme disease, but I had no idea for, I mean, probably like 18 years or something like that. So I was always really just kind of struggling with being so tired, no immune system, out of class a lot, and really had no idea why. And then in my 20s, it just, kept getting worse and worse. And I would be going to regular doctors and just trying to figure out like there's something going on, like there's something wrong with me. And, I think no disrespect to the Western medical system because it saves a lot of lives, but at the same time, I think that there is a lot of dismissal in our medical system today, especially for women, especially for younger women. I feel like I had so many doctors that would just say to me, like, oh, you're so young. Like, I don't know, like, you shouldn't be having any of these issues. Or, like, I think just kind of writing it off like I was a hypocrite or something like that, or hypochondriac, I guess is the right word. But, I'm a pretty determined person. So I feel like when I wasn't getting the answers I wanted, I just was like, okay, I'm going to take matters into my own hands and really started researching alternative modalities, alternative wellness, supplements, things like that. And just sort of made myself a guinea pig. And so I think to your point earlier, where you were saying, in LA, we have so many options for us in terms of wellness. Yes, for better, for worse, because I feel like I spent so much money and so much time just experimenting with so many different things, which I do feel like gave me a really good breath on like what I think works and what I think doesn't work. But it did lead me to experimenting with lymphatic, and it changed everything for me. I feel like I didn't even know I could feel that good. I didn't even know how to be in tune with my body in that way. And that really kind of led me to wanting to share it with others. So that's sort of, how I started.
That's beautiful. So many things. First off, I moved back to the hometown I grew up in, so I
Oh,
totally
amazing.
understand like
Yeah.
the being in the place where you live and then being able to serve that place with like having a business. So it's a beautiful accomplishment, and I'm sure it feels surreal and like something
Yeah, it
that you really
does.
never anticipated.
Yeah, it does, for sure. There's like a florist shop that's next door to me. And we would go all the time when I was a kid, my grandma and I after school, and I would look at, all the flowers and stuff. And like, it's so weird. Like you never think like, oh, in 20, 30, 25 years, you're going to be next door having a business. It's just such a trip.
Ugh, life is so fun in that way, really.
Yeah, it is.
When
Yeah.
you stop to think about it, I love that.
Yeah. It
Um,
reminds you can't anticipate what's coming.
Truly, truly cannot. And I think we have the connection of having had Lyme disease. I had it for a number of years. I'm pretty sure I had it for about 4 years before I figured out what was going on. And
Hmm.
the dismissals, the gaslighting, being told Lyme disease isn't a long-term thing. Your
Hmm.
body already fought it off. It's gone.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, I'm dropping things involuntarily. I'm tripping going up steps. I'm
Hmm.
forgetting words. Brain
Yeah.
fog is crazy no matter how much coffee I drink. Going
Hmm.
for a run used to give me energy. Now I feel like I'm dead by 3 p.m. Like there are just so many things that were clearly very something wrong, especially for how young I was at the time. And I still
Yeah.
believe I'm dealing with after effects of that. You can never really,
I don't think so. I mean, there's so many mixed things, but I do think it stays in your blood, in your plasma for sure.
it feels like it's just something I just have to maintain and
Hmm.
try to stay ahead
Yeah.
of. But I wonder, it's gosh, I have to thank you for all the people in your area that are going to be able to come to your studio and use your services, because I do remember early on in my journey of being like, all right, I know this is what I have. Like, I figured this out. I
Hmm.
would try to search high and low for a place where I could get a lymphatic massage. And at
Hmm.
the time, you had to have a prescription from a doctor because it was still considered just a medical treatment for lymphedema,
Yeah.
people that are suffering from excessive swelling from like medications or illnesses, whatever. So I
Hmm.
couldn't even find anyone just to massage my body. It felt like that's what I needed, a big squeeze.
Yeah.
Couldn't
Hmm.
get it, couldn't find it. So I want to hear a little bit more about what your first experiences were like with learning the lymphatic system, and maybe what treatments you were made aware of or had dealt with to where you were like, aha, something here is making me feel at the very least different, or like I'm moving in a direction of feeling healthier and feeling better.
I mean, so, I'll share my experience, but I have to say, I think it's very different for everybody. So, I try to explain that to people too when they come in for the first time, because I don't want, someone to get their hopes up that they're immediately going to have energy and maybe they aren't after their first experience, or vice versa. But for me, I first of all, I think there's different modalities of lymphatic massage. So you have your manual modalities, and you can do the Brazilian style, you can do water technique, you can use wood tools, and then the machine that I have at my studio is called the Icun, and it is from Italy, invented by a doctor, but we have these like rollers on it that blow out air, and so the air is what stimulates the lymphatic system. So it's all for the same purpose, which is to start moving the lymphatic system, getting blood flowing again, starting to clear out the system. But there's just different techniques, and I tell my clients, I really encourage them to try all the techniques and see which one fits their body and which one they respond to the best. For me, I started by going to manual lymphatic massage places, and I didn't have the response that I was looking for. I mean, I would just leave and I maybe feel maybe a little bit better, but nothing really of noteworthiness. Like it it wasn't one of those experiences where you're like, oh my gosh, that really changed, I want to go back. And so, and the more I researched the lymphatic system, the more I was very interested in it. And what I don't think a lot of people realize is that the lymphatic system is actually really the fundamental system for our body, and it talks to every other system in our body. So if our lymphatic system is not working properly, then your digestive system isn't working, your hormonal system isn't working, like nervous system, immune system, everything. So, I don't think that's talked about enough. And so when I started, continuing to look into lymphatic, I was like, well, I want to try to clear my lymphatics. There was something in my gut that was just like, I think I need to like work on this. And so then that research led me to finding the Icon machine just to use as a client. And it's very rare here because it's from Italy. It's just hard to import. And so when I started using it, I was like, wow, I think, first of all, I got very sick, which is really common, especially when you have autoimmune or Lyme, or your body is just not able to detoxify. You get what it's called like a Herx reaction. So you can feel like you have a cold or the flu, but really you don't. What's happening is that when the toxins and waste and things that don't belong in your body are stuck in tissue and you're kind of jostling that, what's supposed to happen is it's supposed to move to the kidney and liver to then flush out of the system, and through either urine, your colon, or through sweat. But some people, like myself, basically when it gets jostled, the body is like, wait, we were like so comfortable here, what are you doing? And then it's just moving into other places, and it'll like, latch onto your throat or your chest or wherever. And it's like, then you feel like you're sick. So, I kind of have like more to say on that too. I think that's a big indicator that your body cannot detoxify and you really need to work on your body. But that happened to me at first, and I was like, don't love this, but this is a sign. And then I kept, pushing through, and that's really what just got me so hooked, because at that point my inflammation was horrible. I just felt like I was like a tin man. Like I just couldn't, and I got out of bed, I was like, I need oil or something. So once I started feeling like my joints could work, I was like, wow, okay, we've got something going on here. And then from there, I think your body just knows. Like honestly, I really think it's just like, this is important, and like you crave it.
It does. I think people would be really surprised to know how much of their body is part of the lymphatic system. We think of like lymph nodes, and that's where a lot of the work goes down. That's part of the cleansing process. But can you talk about how much of our physical body surface has lymphatic tissue that may need manipulation at times to help the flow?
Well, we have lymph nodes throughout the whole body. So, there's like over 800 of them, and there is this clear fluid, and the fluid is called lymph. Very, very simple. And the lymph fluid is what is flowing throughout all the lymphatic system and through the lymph nodes, through that lymph tissue. And that is what's supposed to pick up toxins and waste. And that's what's supposed to carry it to, again, your kidney and liver to flush it out. But, what's happening now is that it's just so unavoidable to avoid toxins. As clean as you want to be, it's in the water, it's in the air, it's in everything. And so it's just a different world that we're living in than when our bodies were developed. And so that lymph fluid is just working overtime to try to pick up everything. So when it just has too much that it's trying to pick up, it gets really thick, and it's slowed down, it gets trapped in a lot of areas, and that is what can create water weight. It can create inflammation, that joint pain, and just honestly that general kind of heaviness and stagnation that a lot of people are feeling. So if it's not flowing properly and it's getting trapped, then you're not really able to your body is not able to flow in a proper state. And the other thing that slows down the lymphatic system is actually stress. So you can think of like our circulatory system has the heart. The heart is what pumps the blood so that the blood keeps going. But our lymphatic system actually doesn't have a pump. So it's supposed to just be able to continue circulating, but stress, and that's not even just mental stress. It can be physical stress. It can be a surgery. It can be, any type of body stress will just slow down the system. So most people, again, are stressed. So if you have some sort of stress, plus then you have this like burden of just 21st century toxins, it's like you're kind of in a state where things are not going to be optimal in the lymphatic system. So there's really no shame needing to move and kind of jumpstart the lymphatic system. And I honestly think everyone should do it, not even just people that are already struggling or not feeling well. I think that it's a great tool for prevention. And I think that kind of going back to my thoughts on Western medicine, I feel like prevention is not talked about enough. It's more of a Band-Aid approach. And this is very important for our body's like a sponge, like we're wringing out, the sponge, like we got to just keep the system clean.
It really is such an important topic that I think some people are starting to become aware of. And I think typically people first hear about the lymph when they hear about someone they know that they love is sick.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Or,
totally.
like there's an illness to where the lymph is being affected. And I think then it's kind of like, ooh, okay, well, my lymph is important. I need to keep it. But what exactly do I do to keep it operating functionally? But other than treatments, are there things that when you're first, let's say we're a brand new client and we're coming in, what are some of the things that you need to be made aware of, or that you would maybe ask them in a questionnaire or something if they're coming in the door to help you become aware of what service they might need that you offer one or the other? Like, what is your protocol for bringing in a new client and getting to work with them for the first time?
I generally accept most people to come in. There's kind of two exceptions where I really do ask, and one is, are you pregnant? If you are pregnant, the first 12 weeks, we don't advise you to come in for lymphatic. After that, you can come in. I don't really recommend as exact of a schedule for my pregnant clients, because I really just say, go off of your body. How much are you swelling? You don't want to overtax the lymph system either when you're pregnant. So, we definitely take a gentler approach with that. And then, do you have cancer? For me, I personally recommend going to someone medical, like you were saying before, if you do have active cancer, because it's just, you really have to be aware of that. And I'm not a medical professional. So, as much as I, understand and believe in the lymphatic system, I just think it's really important at that time for you to go to someone that's very aware of exactly what's going on with your body. Again, if you just went into remission with cancer too, I like to have that conversation also. So, those are kind of the two main categories that I want to make sure we're on the same page about. Other than that, I always like to ask everyone when they come in, health. I do ask your reasoning for coming in, obviously, on the forums and stuff like that. But we really get more into an in-depth health history when a client comes in for the first time, and just kind of seeing what's going on. I mean, we are in LA, so there are some people that just want to come in for aesthetics too, which is totally okay. So, I really just like to get an understanding of what's going on. And, I always encourage everyone to drink a lot of water afterwards, keep the body moving. I feel like I also can just kind of tell too when people are definitely more stagnant or have more things going on. There's just more sensitivity in the body too, and we definitely take it a lot easier, because I don't want to tax the lymphatic system the first time or shock the lymphatic system the first time. So it's kind of a collaboration of just sort of seeing how they're feeling, and based off of my experience, and we just try to make sure that they have the best experience the first time and feel the best that they can afterwards. But, I do tell them, and like I was just kind of explaining to you, that it's sort of a 50-50 after the first. Like, sometimes you can feel a little bit fatigued and tired. And sometimes people just feel immediate energy. So that fatigued and tired feeling doesn't last forever. It's really just at the beginning when we need to clear out the system. And then usually after around 2 to 3, you really start feeling more of that energy, which is always exciting for me, because I love when clients come back and they're like, oh my God, I slept so good, or I felt so great, or whatever. And my goal is I just want people to be in tune with their bodies. Like, whether they come to me or not, I just want people to really be aware of how are they feeling. And I think so many people are just so numb to that, because they feel like this is just the way I am, or I get a lot of clients in their 40s right now that are getting diagnosed with perimenopause. But I'm I don't know if it's really perimenopause or if you're just like having a stagnant lymph system and we need to just like clear out your body. I mean, I feel like it's one of those blanket terms that's getting a little more popular right now for people, and then they'll come in after a few times and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling so much better. And it's like, it's just, there's a lot I think that isn't discussed in ways that we can work on this without taking pills and such,
Yeah. You know, let me take a step back. I love this generation that we're in right now where we have access to so many people that are really passionate and really qualified to share the knowledge that they have about the certain things that they've gone through themselves, and then it's led to this like journey. And the majority of the people that I interview on this show are doing exactly that. They built a business around something that they themselves needed. They found that it just helped them so much and made a change in their life, and then they realized how many people could benefit from it too. And I am so, so pleased that the medical glass ceiling, in essence, has been broken, because just because you're discussing something about the body doesn't mean that it needs to only be done by an MD. I think there's some really scary statistics about how much that doctors are even learning has been outdated.
Oh,
And
yeah.
not even like outdated within the last year, within like the last 40 years.
Yes.
70% of what they're learning is completely out of date. So
Mm-hmm.
think about that for a second.
Mm-hmm.
But to be able to have access to not only someone that understands the benefits of lymphatic treatments, but understands that it is not a singular reaction, which is something you'd hear from a doctor. It's always a blanket reaction, a blanket statement. It's this, it's that. Like the perimenopause thing is such a hot topic right now. And through research, I know that I just have a stagnant lymph. I'm 39. I'm not going into perimenopause.
Yeah,
The
I
symptoms
know,
are
it's
the same,
crazy.
but
It's
my
like
lymph is just
39.
effed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, since when is a 39-year-old going into perimenopause? You
yeah.
know?
Our
I think the
systems are
other
just
problem,
bogged down.
that, and I think the other problem is, to your point where you're saying, it's that so much information is outdated for doctors now. The other thing I think that's becoming a problem is that doctors are just listening to what you're saying and putting something into a computer system, and then the computer system is spitting out probable causes of whatever it is, and they're not thinking that deeply about what could actually be going on, which I think is also why this trend of functional medicine is becoming very popular now, and unfortunately very expensive, which is really sad for people that aren't able to afford these alternatives. But I think that's why it's really getting more popular, is because
Yeah.
there's just it's rare to find a traditional insurance-based Western medicine doctor that is really looking at you and what's going on with you specifically.
It is, and I think it's definitely led to a Wild West approach to us having to take it into our own hands by,
Uh-huh.
having these different services and these things that are offered that were never offered 20 years ago, let alone like five. So there
Yeah.
is this really beautiful like expansion that I do see happening, and I know, like with all things, there will come a turn where, the people that have been doing it from the beginning will be the industry leaders like yourself. There will be hundreds of thousands of other people that are into it. They become passionate, they learn, and then they open their own spaces that are within their hometown. And it will get easier and a lot, I think, more affordable as time goes on. But what
Mm-hmm.
to me feels like the important point is that there are a lot of people that want this, which means it's starting to pick up favor, and not only favor, but people are relying upon it being something that's going to benefit them. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's an amazing jump from where we were even 15 years ago with people, calling it woo woo or crunchy or
Mm-hmm.
like it's literal science, guys. It's just, it hasn't been really like, brought to the forefront yet, but here we are. And I
Yeah.
love that you're one of those individuals making it something that's digestible and easy to understand enough to know that this is something you do want to incorporate into your health routine if you can afford to. And if you're near,
Yeah. I mean, people still call it woo woo though, even some people, when they come in. So it's It depends. Like I have some people, it's so funny. I'm mostly word of mouth, which has been great, but it's, sometimes people will come in and they're like, my friend told me to come, but I don't know about this, and it's like that I'm so determined. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make you realize that your lymphatic system matters. Like we're going to work on this together. So it's always a fun challenge for sure to try to make people realize that it's a vital part of your body.
100%. So, what are some signs that you would indicate someone to look for on their own body if they may be suffering from a sluggish lymph or a lymph that just needs a little bit of help in movement?
I think that the majority of people think, oh, if I have a swollen lymph node, that is a problem, which, yeah, it is. But that is almost too far, Or obviously, if you have a swollen lymph node, you could either be sick or there's something else going on, like an infection or something. But there's so many other initial signs too of just a stagnant lymph system that people just, I think that's just me getting older, or I'm just tired or whatever. And key one is water weight, obviously. We can go up and down, and women will go up and down too, especially with our cycles. Like it does happen, but at the same time, there's water weight that is just natural, that's a little bit here and there because of your cycle, and then there's massive fluctuations of water weight that can be a big indicator of a stagnant lymph system. I am a great example of that. If I am, not on top of my lymphatic, I have so much up and down water weight for sure. And it has nothing to do with me with sodium or any of that. It's just the way that my body stores excess, stagnation, and toxins. Joint pain, big indicator. Any sort of just muscle stiffness is a huge indicator. Your digestion too, really, like if you're bloating, if you're not regular. If you're not regular, that's we want to work on that because being regular is an important way to eliminate waste. And if you are not eliminating consistently and regularly, then it's just staying in your body, and then it's like it has nowhere to go, and then it's getting in your tissue, and that's the problem, is when a lot of waste and toxins are just staying in the tissue. They are not able to get out. And then another one that I really, really ask people, especially if they're sensitive, is how regular can you sweat, or how easily can you sweat? I had no idea. I never ever sweat as a kid or in my 20s. And I loved it because, who wants to sweat as a woman? Especially when you're like in high school, you're like, sweet. Like I don't sweat. But it's a huge sign that things are not leaving your body, and that your detox pathways are essentially not working. So that is very important, and you really want to be able to sweat. At least, I always say, first of all, you want to sweat when you're working out. If you're not sweating when you're working out, that's just problem number one. And then if you can take a sauna, and if you can sweat within like 10 to 15 minutes, that's good. Like if you are in a sauna for like 30 plus minutes and you're not sweating, we need to work on clearing some detox pathways for you. So, and then also with that too, I really am going way gentler with them on lymphatic also, because that means that their bodies are just totally overwhelmed. So that's something to think about for people. Just think about, am I sweating? And if you are not, that could be a big sign that your lymphatic needs to be worked on.
Yeah. It's really surprising when you start to pay attention to, for me, it's water weight. I have some currently above my eye. I woke up with it like this. It'll take hours for it to dissipate itself.
Ice helps. If you do like an ice, put your face in ice water.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's like, it is what it is when it looks like this. I'm just more concerned for the fact that, like, something is not doing what it should be doing because I have this blockage right now. So it is interesting when you start to pay attention and notice your body talking to you with things that are out of the ordinary. Like, I woke up with this. I know for sure I need to try and get my body moving at some point, and I'll go for a couple of brisk walks today to try and just get it moving and
Mm-hmm.
grooving. But if there were some things that they could do at home or things
Mm-hmm.
they can do when they wake up, like what would you suggest are some easy things they can do to get their lymph starting to flow a bit, like
Mm-hmm.
a daily routine? Or do you have a daily routine that you do in that manner?
I've gone through periods of like daily routines with religiously with lymphatic. I don't think it's for me as necessary anymore since I, do more of the machine regularly, and so I feel like for me, if you're doing that regularly, you're pretty good, and you don't have to be super super intense on doing things at home daily. Although helps, obviously. Um, I'm just bad with regular routines. I'm not gonna lie. So if you are too, like no shame, but like,
Yeah.
brisk walks, like you said, are great. And waking up in the morning and drinking water is really helpful. Either a lemon water is great. Even if you put a little pinch of like Redmond salt in your water, just making sure it's like a salt with a good mineral content, no iodized salt or anything like that. But you want to get minerals back in your body because I know I say drinking a lot of water, but you want to make sure that the water is actually going into the cells the way it should. So that means if you're mineral deficient, it's a big, indicator that you are not really absorbing water correctly. So you definitely want to have either a little bit of salt, sometimes if you're not drinking enough water, maybe an electrolyte pack, not in the straight in the morning, but just sometime during the day. And dry brushing is great. I don't think that it's a cure-all, but I think that it's a good help. I think that it gets the blood flowing. I think it makes the skin texture great, very smooth. But, I would do that in the morning maybe just to keep things going. It's a good kind of also like middle with like if you are doing lymphatic massage and you want to just keep things cleared out, like in between, you could do dry brushing. I also am a big fan of body gua shas. So it's like it's similar to a face gua sha, but it's bigger. You can have a metal one or a stone one or crystal one or whatever. But using some sort of like body oil and just kind of gua shaing the body because our fascia too is a huge part of the lymphatic system, and if the fascia is really tight, then that's also making a lot of lymph fluid get trapped inside of there. So, and then gua shaing the face to your point of your eye, keeping everything in the face moving, gua shaing that. I like to keep a gua sha by either like my nightstand or on the coffee table or just somewhere where if I'm just sitting there, just do a little bit of that. Legs on the wall is actually very helpful, especially if people are standing a lot of the day, flying, traveling, or just getting a lot of swollen ankles, legs. I always kind of recommend it before bed. I'll usually read my Kindle or something for, I don't know, I don't time it, but I just kind of go until I feel like it's heavy and then I just let it kind of drift down. And, there's bigger things you can do too, like, the trampolining and stuff like that. Again, all great. I don't think it's like totally, you have to do this. I think as long as you're trying to keep things hydrated, moving, like yoga, walking, any sort of sweating to get it out. If you have access to a sauna, that's fantastic. If you have access to a cold plunge, even better. Even a hot bath with magnesium to kind of sweat it out, that's also great. So, anything that just keeps the body moving. You don't have to be too rigid on it, but you just need to be intuitive.
And I learned that the pressure should be light when we're gua shaing. Could you give any kind of indicator? Because I was really going ham on myself. I was scraping, pulling through, and I was like, someone said, hey, that's too hard.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, so the lymphatic system sits really kind of like underneath of our skin. And so you don't have to go too deep on it. So yeah, you don't need to, but also you want to maintain your skin elasticity too, which is, very important. So that's another thing I actually tell people is, especially if we're working on things like trying to work on cellulite and stuff, I really encourage keeping your skin hydrated. I am very lazy when it comes to lotioning. So what I like to do is just buy like fractionated coconut oil and which is always the liquid kind, and I'll keep it in my shower. And after I'm done, I just put it on right when I'm wet because it's just a little goes a long way, and then I'll just pat dry with a towel, which I think works very fast and very great. So you want to make sure, because that also helps with your skin elasticity too. So same with gua sha. It's like the more that you're pulling your skin, the more that you're kind of like tugging on that just skin, like elasticity and barrier. So you don't need to be too rough on it. You really just want to be gentle with your techniques, and you don't need to like overwhelm anything. There's nothing that you need to, it needs to just be stimulated so that it can flow itself. You don't have to make it flow with your body, like by your hands, So yeah, just gentle is good.
Good. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. And I would love to know what your treatments are with the Icuna, and I know there's like an LED and some laser lights in there. So what are these particular components of this machine providing in results that are not only helping the lymphatic system, but also kind of giving you this body treatment while you're laying down, I'm guessing?
Yeah, you're laying
Oh,
down.
and you guys wear the coolest little sock
The
outfit
body
thing.
suits. Yeah. The best is when my clients bring their husbands in and don't tell them. It's my favorite thing. It's just seeing how fast they're like, how can I get to the door? Until they put it on. I'm like, have you ever worn a wetsuit? Like, you're fine. But, yes, you do wear a fun little nylon bodysuit. And there's two reasons for that, because people ask all the time. It's one, the machine, if you're not wearing the bodysuit, it's very pinchy on the skin. And very uncomfortable. So it just kind of creates like a little barrier so it can actually be an enjoyable experience, not one that you're just like, oh, please get me off the table. And then two, the machine is really sensitive. So it helps with preventing extra dead skin and like anything like that getting into the machine. So it's kind of a two reason fun little get up that you get to wear. But we keep it very simple here. I just have the machine. I don't have any other things. And so, really we have two different, well, actually, okay, so we have three. So one, if you just want to do your face, you can just do the face. And then, we have two different time components for the body one. So you could just do your body, or you can do your body and your face for our shorter time, or you can do our longest option, which is the full time on the body and the full time on the face. So very, very simple over here, but you really don't need much. It's a big, you get a lot out of it. So we don't like to make it too complicated or too fancy or anything, but yeah, it's really great. And so it definitely varies. I have some clients that just like to come in for their body, have a lot of goals with their body, or we just really need to flesh out the body. And then I have some clients that love doing it for the body and the face, or sometimes most do it for the body, like 3 out of 4 times, and then they'll add in their face once or something. So we can always customize, and I always kind of look and see what's going on with you that day too. And sometimes I'm like, let's just focus on the body, or let's add in your face too.
I love very much that you're basically providing the dream experience of doing something that is good for you and is also going to occasionally provide an aesthetic benefit.
Oh my gosh, I say this is like the best thing because it's such a bang for your buck, and it's literally 2 birds, 1 stone. Like you're going in for a health treatment, but you leave feeling and looking so good. Like I'm like, why this needs to be what everyone does. Especially when you're spending, it's an expense for sure. So especially when you're spending money on it, it's like, don't you want the best of both worlds? I mean, I do. So yeah, it's great.
I kept thinking upon like preparing for our conversation, I was just like, I know for a fact I would go get my face done like easily once a week. Like it would be what I would consider
Yeah.
a mini facelift over time because of just the benefits of keeping, I'll say this. My face has been swelling off and on for the last year, and we are remodeling our home. We have some mold issues. Like I know that my system is a little overloaded right now.
Uh-huh.
But I'll tell you, I see the aging and the sagging of the skin from the constant fluctuations in the swelling, the up, the down. I can only imagine if I were able to help specifically spot treat these parts of my face, like my cheeks, above my eyes, that
Hmm.
are constantly swelling. I'd like to think there'd be some benefit down the line of at least seeing my face remaining and preserving what it is that I have rather than allowing this to kind of just further yo-yo back and forth.
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of people see big differences when we do the face, and especially ones that are really prone to swelling in the face. Some people aren't. And, and then in those cases, I really tell them, let's work on your body because that's, where I think a lot more shows up for you. But for someone like you, I would definitely recommend it. And you're right. I mean, it's really helpful to not have to go back and forth in a yo-yo state of from swelling to less. And
Jealous.
yeah, yeah. But you know what? You can do a lot at home too, like just gently with the gua sha, even like the bowl of ice water. And because that also stimulates your vagus nerve too. So there's a lot of benefits with the cool therapy, or cold water therapy. And I would do
I will
that at
also be
home.
hopping on a plane soon and
Uh,
taking myself for a week of treatment. I need it. So how
oh my
often
gosh.
can one come and get treatment? Are they able to come every day, or
You
what are the
actually
parameters
can.
around
You
that?
can. Yes, it
Oh,
is gentle
cool.
enough too. I don't think you need to. I'm not telling anyone to just, I don't think that's necessary. You don't need to pay for that. But theoretically, yes, you could.
Yeah.
And it's gentle enough, but you know what? I think that, like, I'll have girls that will come before a wedding, like right before their wedding, sometimes two to three times a week. And I don't really recommend more than three times a week. I think even two is just fine.
Yeah.
And again, I don't even recommend that forever. That's really more of like a short term thing, like if they're going right before an event, or unfortunately for some, if they've, if some women have had miscarriages, or if some have been going through a lot of IVF, or even egg retrieval, just things where there is a lot of hormones pumping through. Sometimes they'll come in more frequently too to just start flushing the system. But generally speaking, most people come every 4 weeks. One, because it's just, life is expensive. So it just makes more sense to come every 4 weeks. And that's kind of the max I like to recommend. Listen, if you want to come longer than that, so be it. I'm just going to be honest. You're not going to see the same results that someone is going to have that's coming more consistently. You have to think of it like the gym or like eating healthy. Like if you go to the gym once or twice, you're not going to come out of there with, a six pack. Like you're just not. And if you go and eat a salad once, like you're not going to be, losing weight. Like if that's what your goal. So it's the same thing. It's a natural process. It's nothing like, we're not cool sculpting. We're not doing anything like that's instant. So you have to work for it. And so I was someone that was going twice a month, for all of my inflammation, joint immunity, all that kind of stuff issues. I felt my very best, like top of the world when I was doing that. And so that worked for me. I also tell people to give it at least 3 sessions because it's hard to really know what your body's feeling until then. And most people, which excites me so much, is that they really start getting in tune with their body and they'll come in and they'll be like, you know what, I really feel this heaviness starting around like 3 weeks and I actually want to come every 3, or I really feel, or some that are my consistent 4 weekers, if they were traveling or something and they went, 6 weeks, they're like, oh my God, at 4.5, I just felt it. It's like, you'll know, you'll kind of know when your body, like for me, around every 2 to 3 was when I really feel it. And so I that's why I liked to go twice a month. But it's really just where you're, like, the state of your body. Some people are just in a better shape than others in terms of lymphatic, and they don't have to come as often. But the regularity and the consistency are really the most important, I would say.
Perfect. And very easy to do, No crazy weird routines here. You just show up, lay down, get your
Yeah.
treatment, leave, drink some water, feel great. I
Mm-hmm.
love that so much. I would
Yep.
love for you to tell us the connection that your lymphatic system plays with your hormones, because so many women are suffering
Yeah.
right now with just the craziest of advice from doctors, not knowing what's going on. But can you just tell us how they kind of intermingle together?
Yeah, well, the lymphatic system does helps in part with regulating the hormonal system. So there's a lot of factors with the hormonal system, and lymphatic is not going to be the only thing, but it is a big part of helping kind of regulate and also just sort of clear out a lot of symptoms that people have, like a lot of PMS symptoms, a lot of cramping, things like that. It can really help mitigate, which is really exciting for a lot of people. And another thing is, if people aren't regular on their cycles, it can start making them regular too. And I am actually a very regular person, but it's so weird. It's like one time a year, I am always like 5 days late for some reason. And if I hop on the table and I do lymphatic, I'm like starting my period like right then. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there's definitely a very strong connection between because your lymphatic system also is helping reset your nervous system too. And so there's like something about just the kind of everything sort of getting back in line and leveling out that really helps the hormonal system not be in that like fight or flight too in terms of cycle. But, the other thing is, when it's getting more common to do IVF and also egg retrieval, and just you have to inject so many hormones in, or you have to take so much birth control, and you have to just put so much synthetic in your body, and that is really overwhelming. And so when a woman is done with that process, they're like, please clear me out of it. And it does kind of just help start shaking everything up so that you can eliminate all that excess too and get regular faster and feel a little bit back to normal faster too. It's very helpful.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I did a really deep cleanse about a year ago, and for the first time ever, I had the most simple, easy, like menstrual cycle I've ever had. It felt like for the first time it was like functioning properly, and it was a cleanse for the lymphatic system, and I did really notice like, aha. And then over time, after 6 months after the cleanse, I was right back to like feeling bogged down and like, but there was a very close, the first thing I noticed for me was my menstrual cycle being completely different, being like symptom free, almost like, oh wow, it's here, oh gosh, okay, I had no signs that like this was coming, but okay, great.
Yeah, because you're not supposed to actually have a lot of the symptoms that we have when it comes to a menstrual cycle. And a lot of that is an indicator of excess estrogen, your hormones off balance. And so it's really is kind of a telling sign. Like, we're not supposed to be suffering with cramps. We're not. It's just, it's another example of being told that's just life, but it's not really. Yeah.
Not at all. I thank you so much for just being like a harbinger of the truth. And, I'm sorry that it took you having to go through a space where you weren't really feeling seen or heard for something regarding your body and your wellness and like your just overall health. It's just such a scary thing to be dismissed for something you're just so acutely aware of, like knowing deeply that something inside of you is not okay. And I love that it led you to this discovery of finding at least a really beautiful root foundation of like being able to give yourself a boost of health. If you can take care of your lymphatic system, a lot of other things are going to fall into place. And I thank you for doing the heavy lifting and the heavy research to get to this place where people just have to lay down on your table and just enjoy the treatment and then leave and go about their day. So you've made it literally seamless and enjoyable even for people to support their body in just the best way possible. And I know for sure it wasn't available a few years ago, and that has a lot to do with you being brave enough to kind of lean into this and just go for it. So thank you so much for that. And I know you're going to absolutely incite a trend amongst others that are looking for something like this. Thank you. I think it's just, your work is so special.
That's so sweet. Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And, I don't look back on anything because I think there's a reason that I went through all of that. And I hope that I can help others and even just encourage them to maybe ask different questions or seek different modalities to make them feel good. And that's really honestly like what makes me the happiest and my goal. And I think that everything happens for a reason, and we all go through different things so that we can share with others. So, I'm really, really fortunate and happy that I can have so many wonderful clients and have so many people that feel good from lymphatic, and it's really fun. It's really fun. I love it. So, yeah.
So special. Well, I have one final question that I ask all my guests. So it's this. Colette, how do you make your life rich?
One thing that I think is very important for me is to not focus on being stressed. I think that I don't know if it's just an LA thing or not, but I think that a lot of people like to size each other up by how busy and how stressed we are. And I've caught myself getting into that kind of spiral, sitting down, at a dinner with someone being like, oh my God, I'm so busy, I'm so stressed. And that really takes a toll on me mentally and physically. And so I really try to restructure my brain in that way of thinking I'm fortunate that I get to be busy and that I get to, have so many different things I'm doing, and seeing so many people, and really just kind of trying to rewire my mindset about it and just go about in more of a abundant manner, not a lack manner, And so I think that's just important. It's just retraining the brain in that way to just look at things from a richer perspective, from an abundant perspective. And, other than that, I would say you always have to have your guilty pleasures too. I will always love reading a little trashy romance book on my Kindle, and maybe some Bravo, things like that. Gotta have a little fun here and there, just little things that turn your brain off.
I love it. I love that so much. Thank you so much for sharing that and your guilty pleasures. I love that you said that, because everyone has one, and I think we should all start embracing them, okay?
I agree.
A little turn off your brain time and lay down.
Yeah.
We're doing way more than we should be. We are meant to be cavemen. People, don't forget it. So time to turn off.
I agree. We've got to have just and don't be embarrassed by it. I'll tell everyone in here the plot of the terrible book that I read. I don't mind.
You're such a fun treasure. I wish we lived closer. We would totally be besties.
I know.
But I'm going to see you one day soon, so no worries. But Colette, thank you so much for coming on. You're amazing.
Thanks for having me.
I'll be following along. I can't wait to see what's next.
Thanks. It was so fun talking to you. I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Yes, 100%.
Okay.